What's going on, folks? We are back. The Coaches Show, the mess around, the coaches version of the mess around is back. We're lucky enough to have Shane McGowan back. And congrats to your fighter, by the way. Happy for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
congrats, man. Good job.
So we got our mental coach putting up W's everywhere. That's some good stuff. We're gonna kind of start this off with a little bit of comedy relief about a story that came out around draft time, which is that the Browns, the GM of the Browns, hid who he was going to pick first away from Hugh Jackson until just before the draft. Now, if that isn't a Browns only story, I've never heard one. When the coach and the head and the GM can't get on the same page as to who they're going to pick, and the GM doesn't want to hear it from him and doesn't trust him to keep it to himself, so he keeps the pick away from him. I mean, Coach Taylor, is that about as Browns story as it is, or what?
It's to me, it's a testament to the disruption that's already going on in that with that team. But that's kind of unheard of. You would think that the coach and the general manager would be kind of on the same page, but my goodness, I don't know what that means. There's some smoke there. I don't know. What do you think, Coach?
Well, but look at last year when the Bears did the same thing. They drafted a quarterback. I mean, Fox didn't know anything. He didn't know they were drafting a quarterback. So I mean, it really, in some ways, it doesn't surprise me when some of these teams do these things. It now comes down to the same thing: is that the GM? I mean, he's new in there again. He's gonna run the show, and he's gonna do what he thinks is best for the team. And considering the team went 0-16, he's gonna pick who he wants. And I mean, do I think it's right? Because like I said, you need the input. I mean, I looked at last year with the Bears as well. I mean, they're all shocked as well by them drafting a quarterback when they thought they were getting someone else. So,
and to your point, Coach Shane, I think that says to me that the organization is going to be moving on from Hugh Jackson coming next year. I think whatever reason they didn't have the coach they wanted this year, but they're going to be moving on next year.
I think there's no question about that. I think you nailed that one, saying, listen, you're on a bit of a tight leash, Mr. Jackson, when it comes to first and foremost, who's playing, how we're going to play the system. And if we don't start getting results really fast, you know what I mean? You might be out sooner than later. I think everybody should be aware of that. But again, look at how they drafted too. I mean, they shocked everybody by how they picked, this year in the draft too.
So let's talk about that, Coach Taylor. What do you think about them picking Mayfield as the first pick?
I don't think he was deserving of the first pick. I think, like I told you guys, I think my top five were Barkley, Chubb, Darnold, and close in there was Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, those guys. I think that Lamar Jackson was probably better suited to adapt to a pro system because of the system that Louisville ran. But getting back to the Browns, they worked this guy out, and obviously they liked what they saw, and they went with him with the number one pick. I'm not sure if I would have done it that way, but I guess they got what they wanted. And like I said, you never know. Like I said, they worked him out. They got a chance to see what they wanted to see, and after the workout, they still decided that they wanted to make him their number one pick.
Yeah, well, you know what? I understand that. Look, they worked them just like the Jets worked out Baker Mayfield too, and others, and yeah, I mean. Personally, I thought he was going to the Jets. I really did. I didn't think Cleveland was going to – if you're going to look for a franchise quarterback, I didn't think it'd be Baker Mayfield as being your franchise guy. And again, then you go to your fourth pick, and I thought for sure they were going to take Chubb on the other end of the defense. But no, they go with a defensive back in Ward or whatever. I'm like, okay. Cleveland is basically giving everybody out there a free reign to say, hey, guys, just pick whoever you want because we're, like, doing absolutely everything ass backwards. That's what they did. That's what Cleveland did, in my opinion. And, I mean, they could have had themselves some absolute superstars out there, especially as a defensive lineman with Chubb, because I think that man's going to be unstoppable this year. I really do. I think he's going to be an awesome player. And I think having him with Garrett on the other end would have been absolutely amazing, but it just never happened. So I don't know where Cleveland's going. I really don't.
Well, go ahead, Coach.
Oh, well, and I'm kind of seeing Hugh Jackson right now as the Byron Scott of the NFL. You got him basically just until you figure out what's the next step. Byron Scott basically was brought in to coach the last couple of years of Kobe because the Lakers are trying to figure out what's the next step. And Chris, you hit it on the head, man. It's the same thing here. So you need. The scapegoat for the GM is the head coach, and the scapegoat for the head coach is the GM. So right now, with that dysfunction that's already going, I mean, it's kind of like writing on the wall. It's kind of a do or die situation. Hey, move on. Um, so, I don't think that they drafted a lot of talent, but not that. I'm not saying that. I don't think that I would have made the moves that they made at the time that they did. If you got the players that you want, whenever you draft, you get the best player available. And I'm not convinced that either one of the two picks that they got were the best players available, even in their respective positions.
I'm actually a little bit on the other side. I kind of think that there is something to uh, Baker Mayfield. I've always said I'm not a draft pick, but a lot of people that I respect and follow have liked Baker Mayfield as their number one guy. Sorry, by the way, there's a massive thunderstorm going on behind me, so if you hear bombs going off, I'm okay. Uh, as far as the corner, there is some worry about Chubb not being the same as when after the injury. I think that either way they're going to be all right. They just got Garrett, so it's not the worst pick in the world. Now, if you want to get to what I think, and then the Jets picking up Darnold is pretty obvious. We want to get to where I think you look at what the Browns did versus what I think was the stupidest pick in the first round. Maybe the Saints might come up, but what do you guys think about what the Browns did moving up to get the kid from Wyoming? Start with you, Shane.
Well, you know what? I think look at they needed to do something, and there's no question about it. I mean, look at if he didn't go number one, and they had an opportunity to grab him, why wouldn't you? I mean, it makes perfect sense for them. They see something in this guy. I do think that it's going to be probably be beneficial for them in the long run. But I mean, he's rated high. He needed to be done. But again, like I said, you got to look at a lot of these guys too as saying sometimes you need to groom them a little bit too. They're not a Carson Wentz and they're not a Jared Goff right off the hop. You know what I mean? And I think that's going to be a little bit tough in some of these ones. So I think those are going to have to kind of sit back and kind of realize we gotta be patient here and not expect really a big wow like what the other guys did last season or 2 years ago, whatever it was, to make that type of dynamic entrance into the league. So, and again, we're all going to find out as soon as the OTAs start, as soon as training camp comes in, we're going to find out exactly how these guys are, the system that's in place, who their supporting cast is too in the receivers and running back positions as well. So it's going to be interesting, that's for sure.
Well, Buffalo's Buffalo, man. It's hard to, not a lot of people really like playing there because of the climate. And so anything that we get out of them as far as that's concerned, any talent that goes there, it doesn't really stay there very long. Anybody they draft or recruit in that respect. But Buffalo's in a difficult situation. You have to identify what are your real needs, and are the players that are available able to impact your team immediately. If not, if you don't think that with the guys that you drafted and the guys that you have that you can make a push, then at this point, what do? Do you just groom these guys into develop into the kind of guys that you want and sacrifice your record right now? It's kind of hard to say. So a lot of times when you bring in young guys, they make mistakes. But if you're coaching young guys, you have to understand that these young guys are going to make mistakes. And you have to, kind of pick the poison, kind of live with it, deal with it until they mature enough to not make those same mistakes. So it's a long road, but
yeah, but I'm more talking about moving up when you didn't have to. I mean, it reminds me of what the Bears did last year with the Niners. You give away all these picks to move up and get a guy that no one else wanted besides you.
Well, we don't know
Like
that. We don't truly know that. I mean, people can say, "Oh, well, we're not interested in this, that, and the other," but we don't truly know until your number comes up. Now, they might have had an idea that somebody was going to go and get them, and they wanted to move up in that respect. I don't understand it because I don't think, especially with who was available, he would have been around. So,
well, I mean, the guys in front of them are Chicago and San Francisco,
right?
Who just got quarterback, so there's no way that they were going to get a quarterback.
So, right?
Yeah.
So there's no way that they're going to get draft.
All right, folks, we're back. Sorry about that, little technical difficulties, but hopefully we don't have to cut too much of that out. There was some good stuff on there, but we got everything fixed. So now we're going to go to the Raiders.
The
Raiders. And I know we were kind of making fun of the Browns, but there's a story that came out. And it came out on a site that you have to subscribe to, kind of like some of the stuff on New York Times and stuff now. Where you have to subscribe online. And it said that Reggie McKenzie and his guys and John Gruden and his guys were running two separate draft boards at the same time. And looking at their draft, it looks like Tom Cable was in the ear of Gruden, and Reggie McKenzie got a couple of guys in and missed out on some of the guys that they really liked. I mean, before we get to you with the insight there, Coach Shane, I mean, just hearing this like I did, Coach Taylor, someone who doesn't follow the Raiders that much, I mean, this sounds kind of like the same thing we talked about earlier, right? Coach Taylor?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, this kind of sounds, just taken from the outside, it sounds kind of dysfunctional, right? You have a coach and the GM running two different boards.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You starting off with dysfunction already. But what we know about Gruden is a guy. He wants to control the players who he drafts, and I understand that. If you sign a coach or you bring in a coach to change the culture and to change the the identity of the team, then you need to draft the kind of players that he wants in his system. That's one thing I respect about Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll, when he went to Seattle, he got a chance to recruit and to draft a lot of the players that he was interested in when he was at SC that decided to go other places. So, him looking at Richard Sherman and Chancellor, these are all guys that he recruited when he was at SC. And when he got to the NFL, he got a chance to go after these guys because they fit the identity that Pete Carroll was bringing. Same thing with Coach Gruden.
Yeah, but you know what else he recruited? The GM. He went and found a guy that he knew he could get along with. Same thing you see happening in San Francisco right now. They got Shanahan. Shanahan called Lynch and said, "Hey, you know what? I think we can work together." I think it's hugely important. I understand why people don't understand that, but maybe we're missing something. Coach Shane, why don't you let us know what's going on with the Raiders? Whoa!
Oh wow!
That's what tropical thunder sounds like, boys. That's a thunderstorm.
That's what's going on with the Raiders. Kaboom, baby! All right. So that's the perfect timing. All right. No, look, I don't really think it should shock anybody that Gruden has his own little checklist and everything like that. I really don't. I mean, come on. This is what this team is going to be like right now. You got two guys in there that are alpha dog males. Gruden is going to make sure that he is the man in charge. But the biggest thing is that, you know what, in retrospect, you have to, in many ways, work together to get the best fit for that team. And I'm not saying that Gruden is going to be exactly getting the right guys all the time. I'm not saying McKenzie's going to get the right guys all the time. But I think together, they're both smart enough to know what the needs are for this team. And I think this is what it's going to come down to. And like I said, it doesn't surprise me if guys, and I guarantee you other coaches too will have their own little checklist. I mean, look at Dallas Cowboys probably got 5 of them for Pete's sakes of their own boards.
Every team got one board, man. That's what I heard.
You got one board, and you got 5 iPads that all have the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So you got one big board and 5 iPads with everything different. So don't give me that, man. I guarantee
But what made this different is literally the story. And once again, this is someone else's reporting, not mine. Is there's literally 2, like, those war rooms they show you during the draft. They had 2 side by side, and they would come together and kind of argue it out on who they wanted, like kind of split camp. I don't know. We'll see. Wait, but do you think they can succeed like that, Coach? Honestly,
you know what?
I don't think so.
In my
yeah. Go ahead, Shane. That was for you. I'm sorry. I just said Coach. Go back to you, Shane.
Yeah, no. You know what? Look, I don't think it's a very, it's unorthodox. Let's put it that way. I mean, I do think though that you got to have an understanding with one another at the end of it. There's no question about that. But I mean, if it works for you, let it work. I mean, Gruden's coming in and he's going to set the tone right away. McKenzie's been there for the longest. Let them do their thing, and at the end of it, they can all look at each other after and say, when camp starts, yeah, we did good. You know what I mean? And really, that's all. That's all they all want. But I mean, if you take your guys' teams, by all means. I mean, the Rams will be smart. They'll do their big board, and they'll have their guys all talking to each other like you would respectfully hope and think. But I mean, it doesn't shock me what the Raiders are doing, and I still think there's other teams out there too that do that to a certain degree beyond the low that we just don't see. But I mean, it's interesting. It's a total interesting situation when it comes to the draft.
And I only heard that from one story that I can't access again. So I guess that kind of makes it say what you will about it.
Yeah, that's that TMZ stuff that you guys follow too much. That's why, man. Come on.
It's a major newspaper.
Or else it's from Baltimore Blaine, somebody from the outside. So,
Take it on. Blaine's probably sitting in the hospital bed getting better right now, and he's taking shots.
Yeah, I'm going to get him out of there real fast. But, like I said, though, is whatever happened. Now that it's all said and done with, let this get going. Let these teams start getting their players out there, man, and let's get the football rolling already.
Yeah.
Okay. So what? So let me ask you this, Coach, because I think we'll do the Homer corner here, because sounds like Coach Gruden wasn't, or Coach Shane wasn't real happy with the draft, but I thought it was that they're going to get it figured out. He's got that optimism that us Homers tend to have. So I think if you look at the Rams draft, it was a pretty good draft. But I think if you add in all the picks that they traded for, it's knock it out of the park, A+. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think A+ is extreme. B+ would probably be more realistic. What I do appreciate is that during the draft, they addressed a lot of the needs that would be plaguing them within the next year or two. They have some really great acquisitions, but again, some of these great pickups are only on 1-year deals. You think about they got Sue's on a 1-year deal, Longacre's on a 1-year agreement. Sullivan is on his last year of his deal, and he'll be a free agent. I think Ron Brown and another guy on the offensive line side who are players will be one of them will be a restricted free agent. I can't think right now, but I'm restricted free agent. So the concept is they address some of those needs. So if these guys move, you're not hurting the Todd Gurley's touches, because you'll still have some guys who are, and they drafted pretty good, if you ask me, did well. Also, the defensive side, they went after some good edge rushers, some good outside backers, a couple of
special team and situational guys,
yeah, and then we got another pick by trading for getting rid of Tavis Austin. Who, man, I don't know. The fall off of that guy was just, he got that mega extension, and then, oh my God, nothing since. So
but now the Cowboys have 5 slot receivers. They're rocking.
Oh yeah, Cowboys
over in Dallas.
Everything's big in Dallas, man.
So what do you think about if you add Cooks, Peters, and Aqib Talib, because technically they are part of the draft, to the Rams draft? What do you think about it, Shane?
Oh, no question about it. The Rams did their homework. They did a great job of all around Not only just drafting, but I mean getting key guys in the offseason like that. They did their homework. They did what they needed to do, I think, to get themselves over that hump and to the next level in this playoffs. I really do, and I think that came with the veteran. They've still got the speed out there, so it's not like they compensated by saying, "Hey, you know what? We're going a little bit more mature and older, so we might lose some speed." I don't think they did that at all. I think they kept it really tight. I think they kept the everybody, especially on special teams, which is going to be a huge thing for them as well. But I mean, they did a really good job, and I'll definitely give them a good B plus, close to an A for everything that they did this year so far.
Right. I agree, and and just to continue, they did all of this without a first round pick, and so that was impressive. But again, some of those acquisitions are still just 1 year deals, and which is we'll see if it works, and if it doesn't, hey, we can move on from it, which was smart in itself. I think the approach, as you said so eloquently, Coach, they did their homework and had a really great approach to an experiment. If it doesn't work, we only did it 1 year. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest key right now for a lot of these teams is, you know what, let's just go on the 1 year. Why are we going too far ahead let's just think about the next season? If we're almost there and we only need one more guy for another season or whatever it is to get us through it, why not do that? And I think they're saving themselves and they're bringing in the fans. They're doing everything to move on to that instead of looking, well, yeah, we need a guy for 5 years. Well, we need this for, I mean, I understand, say, certain positions at young ages and key players. But, I mean, if you're talking to some of these vets, yeah, you know what, give them a 1 year deal because they're what we need in for right now because that's how close we are. And that's it. And then come next year, listen, we'll haggle you, we'll wheel and deal. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, guess what? We've got ourselves maybe a championship.
Yeah, and not only that, we also drafted young enough to where if by chance some of you guys move on, we got a year of guys working under, Ndamukong Suh and some of these other players that, you got a year in with these guys to develop what it takes to work like that, the work ethic and all of those things. And then if it doesn't work out, now you plug in one of the young guys you just drafted.
And injuries, you never know either. You know what I mean? Anything can happen. We all understand that, but at least they've got the backup in place. So you're not going to be scrambling around or worrying about certain positions. And you're right. You're grooming the young guys to come in, and that's all about. So I think, like I said, so far, I think a lot of people, a lot of teams are taking note of what the Rams have done. And by the way they've moved the coaches, the coaching staff, the personnel, everything into place. And with the way they've started to draft as well, I think everyone's looking at them saying, you know what, if this is a successful season for the Rams, they've almost made a bigger noise for themselves where others are going to take notice and say, what are they doing in the offseason? Because we kind of need to do the same thing instead of just playing the, well, we need this or, well, I don't know, we'll pass on that guy. Let's hope for the best for this one. So I think they did a good job.
Yeah, and when, looking back at the team we're about to talk about next, my Seahawks, when they were deep in that 2011, 2012, with the playoffs, 2013, they win the Super Bowl with all those young kids. When you start drafting smart and you're deep, like the Rams are heading into and they're starting to be, is you can have a lot of these kids have redshirt years. Cam Chancellor had basically a redshirt year. Richard Sherman would have had a redshirt year if True Font and Kelly Jennings hadn't gone down. So, I mean, when you're starting to get deep and your team is really starting to be put together, you can have some younger guys get mentored and really move up. And, it results in, hopefully for the Hawks, like 2013, the youngest team in history to win the Super Bowl. So let's go to the Seattle Seahawks. They got smashed on all the draft graders. Pick from last year just continues to bite them, and that kid from Michigan State who they picked with a high second last year, smashing his head, playing around on ATVs just before camp. Then they had to go and trade their second to pick up Sheldon Richardson for the 1 year, and then he didn't end up working out to be extended. So now that one missed pick, not only do they not have the draft kick, they don't have the kid, they had to give up another second. So they only had the one pick. And they went down, and they picked up someone that a lot of people said, you can get in the third, you can maybe get in the fourth, but also a lot of people had him as the second or third best back on their board. Some people just didn't know him or said he wasn't that. Well, what the kid is, he's the NCAA's leading rusher. He averaged 30 yards a kick return. He's a bruiser, and he doesn't get hurt. And Seattle, with no pick in the second, I think what they said is, even though we could have waited, an ideal draft and a regular draft for this kid, this is the kid we want. This is the kind of running game we want to have. And they went and got him. I'm talking about the kid out of San Diego State. After that, they had 8 picks in the second. On the third day, they didn't really have anything in the second day because of things they had to get rid of. They'll have a bunch of compensatory picks next year because of all the free agents they lost. But, they really didn't have a lot of ammo to do anything with. They did pick up that punter, the one who was the MVP at the bowl game, who knocked the team inside the 5. Well, hey, you played for Texas. You played a major bowl. He kept him inside the 5, I think, on 4 or 5 kicks. If you're going to go up and get it, you're going to Ray Guy it.
And you always need a kicker.
He's still a punter. He's still a punter.
Well, you need something.
Yeah. But what do you think about the idea? If you know about the kid, that's fine. We'll go to you, Taylor, first, and then we'll go to Shane. If you know about the kid, give us some insight. Running back from San Diego State. But if not, what do you think about just saying, what, this is the kid we want. We're going for it.
No, just a little bit about the kid. Of course, after you guys drafted him out, I kind of checked it out. San Diego State. He's not bad. But I get it. Go after if it's the guy you want, go after him, which is why we're talking about Buffalo trading up to get Josh Allen. Well, it's the guy they wanted, regardless to whether or not, I don't know if it's worth doing it. But again, what's wrong with that mindset? If this is the guy I want, Baker Mayfield's the guy I want, I'm going to get him first. Why wait? If this is the guy I want, go get him. So, I can't be mad at that mindset. We'll see how the cards play out.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing: is you got to go with needs, like you guys have all said, and really, Seattle needs a running back. They need a
healthy one.
They need not only a healthy one, but they need one that can not only take the hits, but can also be in there to help Russell when it comes to needing to dish that ball off in the backfield. You know what I mean? You got to have that last free, dump him off, let him go do his thing. Really, just like what those guys can do for their quarterbacks, and that's what Seattle has been missing. So if they can get this fella to do these type of things and they can do well, that's that all the power to them. There's no question about that. And again, you also need a couple of guys on that front line too to help create some openings as well as keep Russell in the pocket to be a little more comfortable and not scrambling like a madman too.
And just like we had to add in, Peters and those guys into the draft for Seattle, you have to add in the late first, high end second round pick that they got for 6-time Pro Bowl left tackle Dwayne Brown. So if you put him in the draft, that does change things just a little bit. And yeah, it's going to be tough. There's a certain point when you look at these things, you got to say, hey, do you believe in what we did? Do you believe in what we've put together? And so far, they've been good. I'll say this, Coach Shane, is the last time anyone jumped on Seattle for picking someone way too early in the first round was the gentleman that was just featured on the top 100 for your team, and Bruce Irvin. And when they picked him in the first round a few years ago, everyone said, "What are you doing, Pete? That kid was busted for breaking and entering. He's just a fast guy. He can't move. He can't sack. He's not going to be long for this league. Why are you reaching to get him in the first?" And boom, led the league and fumbles calls a couple of years ago.
I tell you, what you know what I'll tell you. It's too bad. Honestly, it's too bad that Seattle didn't try somehow to get themselves Barkley as their tailback and make a trade with the Giants or whatever to get the number 2.
There was no way they could have got it that high. They didn't have the draft capital. The only way they could have done it, and which they did try, honestly, this is a report, it was to trade Earl Thomas.
Okay. So, but like I said, though, again, I don't know the ins and outs of some of those ones. Everyone's got their own what they heard and et cetera. But to me, they know what they needed. And to me, that was not only the most outstanding back coming out of there that they could have easily used and would have done so well having him in their backfield. Could they have done something? I don't know. I don't know how aggressive they were to even try to look for it. That's the thing.
Yeah, I will say this for Seahawk fans out there listening. I listen to a lot of people, and I after this pick, I went and listened to a lot of podcasts, looked the kid up, and I think he may suffer from. He's not SEC, he's not Big 12, so the numbers don't matter as much. But a couple of high-end scouts and super draftniks said they had him as the number 2 guy on the board. So only time will tell. I will tell you this: the way it looks now, he's going to get a shot right off the bat. So we're not going to have to wait too long to find out. So let's talk about some teams that really just knocked it out of the park. And why don't we start with you, Coach Taylor? Who after this last draft week do you think just absolutely killed?
Oh wow! Outside of the Rams, it's a couple of teams. I was impressed with how they drafted. Number one, I would have to say the Chargers. They really addressed them that they had. They didn't take a quarterback, of course, because that's a delicate situation. But some defensive needs, obviously, got one of the best defensive players in the draft, and I think they did well. And believe it or not, I think Baltimore did pretty well. The Ravens did pretty well with their picks.
Yeah, well, I kind of agree on the Chargers there. I think they were that sleeper team that I think needed to do some things, and they did. And
Right.
I'm going to be more impressed with watching what the Eagles do with that big boy that they picked up as well, and where they decide to put him, because I mean that's a monster out there, that guy. So we will see with that, but a lot of teams I don't think. Like Tampa Bay, I don't know what the heck Tampa Bay really did either. I wasn't impressed by what they decided to do out there. I think you're right with Baltimore. I think Baltimore not only did a good job, I mean, enough for them to feel that, hey, you know what, we're happy with what we got, so let's go into the season. Pittsburgh, I don't know about either. I don't know what Pittsburgh was doing personally either. I think they still didn't address their quarterbacks.
You don't like the kid from Oklahoma State?
Nah, I don't know. I don't know.
Reminds me of Big Ben, honestly.
But that's the thing.
Yeah, I'm about to say they got another Ben Roethlisberger.
They got Big Ben 2.0.
They got Ben 2.0. That's exactly what they did.
But are they going to be able to get? I mean, then you got Ben all of a sudden all freaking out saying, "I'm going to play for another 3 to 5 years just because you picked up this kid." I mean, come on, man. Give me a break. Ben's one hit away. Let's go.
Yeah,
Ben is one hit away.
That's why they need that backup.
And you can bring Junior in, but Junior I don't think is going to be ready. And you're in a hostile situation when you're out there in Pittsburgh too. It's
I don't think we're going to see. I don't see a Russell Wilson or a Dak Prescott in this draft. Like he's going to step in and go to the playoffs. I didn't see one.
I was going to say this. Let's be honest. When Seattle drafted Russell Westbrook, they were drafting him as a backup because Flynn was their guy. And what happened is, Russell came in and he just outworked Flynn and outright earned a spot. And they rewarded him by giving him a big contract. With that being said, this is why the other players are falling off and why Seattle's falling off, because they've invested all their money into Russell.
Just too late, Coach. Golf's around the corner.
But oh no, it won't be that situation with Golf. I can tell you that right now.
I think Chicago also did pretty good too. I think Chicago didn't do too bad.
I think Chicago killed it too. So real quick before we get off on a tangent, I want to go back to something you said at the start of this roundabout there, Coach Taylor, when you talked about how much you like Baltimore. I'm guessing taking the kid from Louisville at the end of the first round is something that you liked. We might have to cut off the first part of the show because of technical difficulties. Apologize again. But why don't you tell us a little bit more about why you like the kid from Louisville and if you like the fit there with the Ravens?
I think it was a good fit. It was peculiar that the last 2 Heisman Trophy winners, one went first and the other went last in the first round. That was pretty unique. But like I said, I think the system that Louisville ran, I thought that even though I don't think any of the top quarterbacks that came out of college are NFL ready, I don't think so. But if there was one that would probably be most ready, that would probably be Lamar Jackson, like I said, because of the system that Louisville ran. They ran more of a pro style system. Oklahoma ran a different style, half West Coast, half uh, nose to the grind, half. Well, I don't know. Those are too many half. We should be quarters then. But they had various different types of things. They did the zone read a little bit, play action, stuff like that. Where Louisville ran more of a pro style offense. You drop back. If there's nothing open, you look for your first read, you check your second check. If nothing's open, then he made plays with his legs. I thought that was a great pickup because, again, how much longer do you really have out of Joe Flacco? And if that's the case, how many more mediocre years are you going to accept out of Joe Flacco before you decide? And Joe Flacco was another guy that earned a spot. Yeah, he earned a spot, made a lot of money. They rewarded him with a big contract, and he hasn't done crapola since. And so we'll see what's going on. Hopefully, but like I said, hopefully, we'll see why I said I thought Lamar Jackson might be the most pro ready. I still don't think any of the quarterbacks that came out are NFL ready. From Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, you name it, Lamar Jackson. I don't think if any of them are ready. There's no one in the system that I could say you could plug them into their team right now and he'll make an impact.
See, the funny thing is what you just the way you just described Baker Mayfield, all the things you said about Baker Mayfield is why I think he should have gone number one.
No,
it's a difference in opinion. He's saying they have kind of a little bit of this. They do some zone read, where the other guy was just straight up pro. I think that Josh Rosen is not going to be that good. Darnold has a tendency to fire into traffic.
Mayfield is Menzel 2.0.
Yeah.
See, that's the funny thing. I think Rosen is Johnny 2.0. Doesn't care, rich family.
No.
We'll see.
But Menzel cared about the money. Menzel cared about the status. Menzel cared about getting a big name, and that's what I see out of Baker. That's what I'm seeing out of him in that way. Yes, he's saying the right things. Don't get me wrong. He is saying the right things about just put me on any team because I want to play. Hey, that's great for you because your stock just goes up. I totally get that. That's how you got to play the game. The biggest thing, though, is get in the game and let's see what you can do at this pace because it's a lot different at speed. And I just don't know if he can do it. That's all I'm saying.
I think people still have Johnny Manziel taste in their mouth, and they're looking to stick it on to Baker Mayfield. I think if Baker Mayfield would have come out of college 4 years ago, he would be a bit higher up. But because of everyone seeing what happened with Johnny, everyone's like, "Uh-oh, it's another Johnny." And
yeah, but all you're
gonna back out.
But all you're gonna do though is you're gonna look at the last game that Baker Mayfield played in college and said, "Hey, dude, you missed a lot of openings out there.
Yeah, he missed a lot.
You made a lot of bad mistakes. So where do you go? You go to Cleveland.
Yeah, but look at the key of that though, Coach. You hit it on the head. That was what I was saying earlier in his last couple of games in the regular season, and then the playoff game, especially the one against Georgia. Man, a lot of misses, but. The reason why there were so many misses, Georgia, LSU, Clemson, those guys, you already know what I'm about to say, right, Coach?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead. Finish it off, because you're right, is that they got a defense, man. They know how to play.
They know how to play defense. Exactly.
But this is the thing now. Now you're going to go against teams in the NFL that got defenses. You got those tricky corners out there that'll read you like a hawk, and you're going to be that kid that's going to throw you're going to be like that kid in Buffalo last year that threw 5 interceptions, and that's what I'm saying. This is what I'm going to see out of Baker Mayfield, I think. And not only that, is how is he going to compose himself after he's messed up? How is he going to come off
I don't think he plays this year.
Oh, they're going to throw him in there at some point.
Oh, no, they're going to throw him in there at some point. Yeah,
it's Cleveland. I think Tyrod Taylor is the perfect guy for that offense. He's the perfect guy to
Oh,
to hold on, because
I,
he's not going to go
I,
out there and just stink it up, and then you have to throw in Baker in order just to salvage the season. I think he's
look
going
at
to go in there just.
Tyrod's not about to give up his starting spot. Don't get me wrong, but like I said, anything can happen. Hell, they benched Tyrod on a winning team for Pete's sakes,
Isn't
man.
that
You know
something?
what I'm saying?
Well, that's
I
Yeah.
was
because
go-
that
So,
coach is a moron.
that was
okay,
going to
but
be my next point. And there are
look at
more
where you're
moron
at.
coaches.
You
You
got
got
a
another
moron
moron
coach in
coach.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot to mention about the coach in Buffalo picking that kid. The reason that set him apart is because he can throw well in inclement weather.
Right.
So the extra
Right.
5 completion he gets in November, December is worth, half your draft next year and all your
Oh
second
no.
down streaks this year. No, I'm agreeing with you guys. I'm not trying to argue. I'm just
Oh,
saying
yeah.
I think that coach has way too much power. If I'm going to jump on him though, I do have to say that I think that the second pick in the first round, that speedy linebacker they got, was a great pick.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna do good.
Yeah.
So if I have to give him credit on that. I can't just completely bash him. So I'm gonna tell you who I think absolutely knocked it out of the park. And part of that is because of the Buffalo trade. It's Green Bay.
Yeah.
They got a bunch of those picks, and they went and got one of, I think, better than the Ohio State kid. They got a great corner in the first round, and I don't know how Joshua Jackson fell to the second, but we actually called it on the Friday show before the draft. I said that's who I wanted Seattle to pick, and Hirsch said, well, I would love it if somehow Green Bay would get that kid. And boom, I think that Green Bay just absolutely nailed it. They got 2 future starting corners side by side. They got some help at the linebacker where they're getting a little bit long in the tooth. They picked up some receivers to fight for that 4th spot. I think that they just absolutely knocked it out the park.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with that. As I do think Green Bay did a great job as well at getting who they needed and who was available for them like that without making too many sacrifices. And it's definitely gonna pay off for them. I think they did really good on this one. There's no question about that too.
Now, I'd say a team that I think absolutely screwed the pooch has got to be the Saints. They did such a great job last year, and again, another team that just went and traded up for nobody. I mean, they went for a kid. They traded up to get their kid. And I said, here's the difference. We're talking about, Seattle. Seattle traded down and then took a kid when they didn't have a second round or third round pick. Trading up to get someone that no one's gonna take in front of you. That's what I think is kind of the difference in what we're talking about. There's no problem going and getting your guy, but I don't see why you would trade up to get someone that no one else wants. I just think that they gave away a bunch of picks to trade up for people they don't need. So I mean, you can kind of comment on that, but in your comments, why don't you throw in what you feel about Dez being a Saint?
I think it's a really I think it's pretty good. Drew Brees is the type of quarterback that can kind of help rejuvenate a guy like Dez Bryant, But to your point, sometimes there are other factors that come in the draft, like salary, like cap space, like who's worth the mega bucks and who's not, and sometimes if you're heavy in a certain area, then you draft for areas that you're not really deep in. So we really don't know how that'll work out, but I think with some of the things that the Saints did, they'll address some needs. But I'm not really panicking about that because the Saints always seem to manage to put out a successful product. So,
Right.
I think they've had some crappier drafts, but they'll still manage to put out a quality product. It's just the nature of the organization.
Yeah, and I'll go with that. I mean, look, they're stacked nicely in the running backs. There's no question about that.
Right.
Defensively, I think that they can still hold their own. It's going to be a little bit with the DBs because they did play a couple of rookies there, so they're going to have to be careful of what they want to do in that situation as well. But like I said, you're bringing a threat in Dez who they feel can do something with being double teamed, which is fine. I'll free up someone else then, no problem. I mean, if that's going to be your role as the decoy and get a few key clutch catches that you can get and et cetera. I mean, look at Saints were pretty much 10 seconds away from going on to face Philadelphia if it wasn't for a bad mistake by a defensive back out there, a rookie kid. So like I said, anything can happen. We understand that. So they kept their guys, but I just want to touch on one other quick thing. I don't know if you guys heard.
The mental coach aspect. You think Dez is going to flip out when they don't throw him the ball?
No, I don't actually. I think Dez is going to be that team guy there playing with Breeze because he trusts Breeze because Breeze is a successful quarterback. Don't get
exactly
just like
that was the
just
point
like when
I
he
was
felt
making.
with Tony Roma. I mean, he felt the same thing with Roma out there too. And I think he knows that. Listen, Breeze will see Dez if he is open, and he can thread the needle. So I think
he can sling it.
Exactly. So I do think that there's a role in there, and I think if Dez plays it smart the way he knows how to, he'll get himself into positions to get the ball and be a star in New Orleans. There's no question about that. But the one thing I wanted to touch on, I don't know if you guys we talked a little bit, was the Falcons and how they signed Matt Ryan there for a guaranteed $100 million.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why.
My other thing.
That's the golf contract coming in 3 years, man.
And they drafted a really good receiver to complement Julio Jones on that other side too.
Yeah.
So now really here's the thing: is Atlanta now saying, okay, we messed up last year. We went to play the Patriots in the Super Bowl. We blew that. We blew last season. Now, can we come in here with the high profile quarterback? Got ourselves a good draft pick. We got Julio Jones. We got a few others. Can we make another run for it? That's what I'm looking to see what Atlanta's going to do now.
And a second year under the new OC, which is huge.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's something to that. I definitely agree with that. And I want everyone to know, folks, we're gonna wrap it up. This is kind of we're getting the cobwebs off. We're about to make our run into camp. We got a lot of fun stuff coming on. The Coaches Show. I know you guys have liked it. It's been our most popular show so far on the new network. We're gonna have some other coaches in. We're gonna do some fun things because these guys are pretty funny. Some different topics. And real quick before I get off, I wanted to ask 2 questions. First of all, Coach Taylor, who's getting out of this round as far as basketball is concerned?
Well, it depends on what team you're talking about. I have to say, I watched the game today. I've watched the previous series, and as long as LeBron James is playing, it's getting more and more difficult for me to put my money against LeBron. The people talk about when he's in his upper 30s, his athleticism should decline. It doesn't look like it. And if he does decline, what do you move him from, the small forward to the power forward? He's still better than 80% of the power forwards that are in the NBA, in my opinion. He keeps his body up so he can play a long time. He is personally putting the Cavs on his back and guiding and leading these guys to victories, come from behind rallies and all these things. I see Cleveland coming out of this round. And right now, I'm not sure about the score of the Sixers game, but the 76ers are going to have their hands full with Boston. So it's a crapshoot in the East, but in the West, your 2 best teams are Houston and Golden State. And right now, Houston is looking pretty confident. We've yet to see what it'll look like.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with Toronto. I'm going to take my Toronto, even though they got beat by Cleveland. I just think that they're going to go back in this locker room and say, our fourth period, is what's biting us every time. We are not getting the production in the long. We're doing pretty good in the first. We do pretty good in the second. Third, we dwindle. Fourth, we blow it. And that's what they're doing, and that's when the Cleveland's pouring it on. So they need to get their shooting going in the fourth. No question about that. Philly and Boston is going to be that, again, 2-point, 3-point games. It's going to go up and down, but Philly's got to play. They're a young team, but they need to play fast and smart, just like what they got them there in the first place, because Boston is hurting with injuries, and they're not taking advantage of that. That's the problem. And
Boston has been hurting. Boston's been hurting with injuries all year, and nobody anticipated. Listen, they're without their 2 superstars, Kyrie Irving, and they're out. God, dog, what's his name? He got hurt the first game. We came from Utah. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I can't. But the
Anyway,
name slips me. But I understand what you're
Silver
saying.
Mike.
But that's
So they without both of their superstars all season and still winning.
and that's the thing you're right. It's kept them in, and they're doing what they got to do with the guys that they've got, and there's no question about it. But Philly is a young, fast team, but they're making some bad rush passes and shots that they're not used to.
Turnovers. Too many
Yeah,
turnovers.
and that's what's getting. I mean, they're not getting the rebounds off of some of those either. And Boston did a great job of getting the rebounds. You know what I mean, and executing. So they need to do a little bit better with that too, because I do think Philly's a good team. I think Philly's a really good team. I think they're having a lot of fun out there, but I just think though they need to play some fast-paced ball like they know how to.
I think Philly's about a year off, and you can tell your Raptors not to get 3 fouls on Lowry in the first couple seconds of the third quarter. That might help you.
Yeah, but when you got the refs pulling for Cleveland and down there, I mean, come on, man. Guy takes an elbow to the face and they just smile about it, you know. So come on, you know. You got to call it as it is.
NBA is the only sport that I say there's something to the cheating, because they've caught it, and I lost so much money on that Sacramento Lakers playoff game so many years ago that I'll never forgive the NBA for the rest of my life. All right, Coach. All right, Coach Shane. What's gonna happen in hockey? Who's gonna take it? Who's gonna take it all the way?
The Jets taking it. Jets are going to be playing against Vegas for the West, and Jets are going to beat Vegas. And then I got Nashville against. I got Washington going against Tampa, and I think Tampa's going to be able to pull it off there. So I got a Tampa Bay against a Winnipeg Jets for the Cup.
Yeah, but I'm kind of liking the aggressive play of Las Vegas right now. Las Vegas looks really good, with the exception of a couple of hiccups. Winnipeg, it's kind of turned it around here, but they've always been like right at the threshold. But now they look pretty good too. So, coach, it's kind of hard for me to kind of make that determination. But I think I'm leaning more towards Las Vegas pulling this thing out this year. Right now with the Penguins,
if Vegas does it, woo, that's going to be like in the record books as usual. You know what I mean? Just because of expansion team and etc. But man, I swear,
how'd they get so good so fast?
They just picked all good players.
Yeah.
Is it that easy? Is it like a basketball where you could just like talk to LeBron, talk to Wade, talk to Bosh, and be like, hey, you guys come here one season, everything's different.
No, look,
it has so many more moving parts than like
this is the thing. This is the problem, is that when you go and you have an expansion team, your existing teams can only protect so many guys.
Right.
Yeah, expansion draft.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what Vegas got.
Right.
So it wasn't like a team moved and you took the crap from the team.
That's
you got a brand new team.
When was the last time an expansion team did anything in any other sport, like right off the bat, like this?
Ooh.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't think about basketball.
I can't even think of one.
Jacksonville,
baseball.
like 3 years
Jacksonville. In. Yeah,
but they were like 3 or 4 years in, right?
This is
Carolina
the
Panthers.
That was probably you're right. Those two teams were the most impressive within a year or so of coming into a league.
Right.
This is a team
Texas still
first
hasn't
year.
got that role.
Yeah.
Texans are still stuck in Expansionville.
Yeah.
No. and that's why, because you think about it and go, that's got to be the hardest thing in the world. But again, I mean, in hockey, you're pulling guys from the existing teams that are good players to just there is not enough room on that team for them.
So at least an expansion team can be competitive because you get the advantage of the expansion draft. If I have 10
guys,
if I have 10 guys, then the expansion would allow me to protect 6 of them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I've got to figure out what 6 guys that I'm saying I can absolutely. Meanwhile, remember, you got a top 10 and you have 5 positions. So the 6 guys that you can protect, you can only protect like maybe 1 or 2 in each position. After that, it's wide open. So
but you're also forgetting this though too, is that there was more wheeling and dealing behind the scenes of guys saying to the GMs, hey, can you not take my guy and we will give you so-and-so as prospects. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, okay. So these guys are being flipped left, right, and center. I mean, it's the most stacked way to build your team if you know what you're doing.
Right.
And Vegas had some smart GM, smart coaching, and they said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And it worked for them. And that's why they're successful, man.
And they're having the financing behind it. I mean, it helps that you don't have to pay state taxes, and that the people Vegas is turning into such an entertainment capital that whatever sport is of, I don't care if it's hockey, I don't care if it's soccer, whatever, football, if it'll bring more people to our great city of Las Vegas, we're open to it. And they put the money behind it and they move forward. And then they bring in people that can make really great business moves. And that's what we've seen with this Las Vegas Knights expansion team. Really great moves from the top all the way down, from management all the way down to coaching. And that's why I think that they make for an interesting draft because, interesting in the conversation as far as who might bring home the cup this year. And you think about it, and one more thing I wanted to add about that, since we're talking in the expansion draft. So when you get an expansion, not only do you have the luxury of being able to pick players who would be a starter anywhere else if they weren't on certain teams. They'll be a starter anywhere else. They get to go and become a starter. So now, not only that, but then they also get the luxury of finding those missing pieces that are overlooked because we're so far north in Winnipeg or so far here that we don't really see this guy, and he goes under the radar until it's time for us to draft. So that's another luxury that location has. So, they did some really good things. That's the reason why it's exciting. But like I said, Winnipeg, when I was living there, we, everyone, loves hockey in Winnipeg. That's, little kids. Yeah. The little kids will wait till Kings Lake freeze and go play on the lake, man. That's how awesome it is out there. And so it's finally good to see him turning it around a little bit, Coach. I want to add that, but I'm leaning towards Vegas a little bit.
Yeah, you know what? I just know it's going to be – this is without a doubt, and brought this up on a few other shows too, is this year's playoffs have been the most exciting and the most entertaining that the fans have seen in many, many years because it's not so simple anymore. You got teams that are fast-paced, you got teams that are skilled, and you've got the fans that are supporting like no tomorrow. I mean, it's not right. Last year you had some teams that were in a playoff – and the arena didn't even have half of it filled. And you're like, you're in the playoffs, man. What's going on? To me,
I don't think it matters to them because they still sold out. But they still sold out.
But
they sell out a stadium and then don't show up. That's what I don't understand.
But that's something that NFL fans need to understand. Is some of these teams just don't have enough money to fill out the roster. Some of these teams have to trade people because they're broke in certain other sports. And when you have a team that like a Vegas that has all the money and they there's no problems, it's huge. Most of the big teams, but there are smaller teams like the Oakland A's. They trade prospects for cash.
Right.
They're of course. They're the money ball.
Yeah,
money ball, man. That's a money ball,
there's a lot to talk about. We're definitely going to bring you guys some more of other sports as we go. I should mention also that the expansion draft is huge in the MLS because they keep expanding every single year. You got like 4 or 5 teams, and that new LA team looks pretty good.
LAFC.
Right
LAFC is pretty dang good, man.
Yeah, they got
pretty dang good, and
that's
another expansion team that's doing pretty well his first year, man.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
And then
exactly.
Beckham team is coming to Miami soon. And that sport is blowing up. If you have a chance, look online and check out Atlanta's new soccer field. It's
okay.
The Mercedes.
I got a feeling that you're going to see Vegas getting a soccer team.
Oh, for sure. It's already in the works.
Yes,
they're already making the baseball. They've already dug for the baseball out there.
Right.
And they know that the money is going to be there for soccer as well, and the fans that come in from, and especially soccer because it's a world game. So
you want to get more world tourism,
and it's always warm out there, so you can do like friendlies with other countries. You can do all kinds of stuff.
Huge.
Plus, the U.S. is pushing for the World Cup in 8 to 12 years. So we'll see. All right, guys. Well, as always, it's good talking to you.
Great show.
We're gonna have some fun stuff coming up all year long. So thanks for joining us. Thanks everybody, and we're out.
Great show, guys.